European officials today calling for increased intelligence sharing with Arab nations following European-wide anti-terrorist raids. Our first guest tonight says there need to be ramifications in the Middle East if more isn't done by the Arab nations to stop radical Islamist terrorism. Joining us tonight is Senator Richard Burr. He is the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, member of the Senate Finance Committee. Mr. Chairman, good to have you with us. The call for shared intelligence by the European Union officials, at the same time they're carrying out the broadest range of raids against radical Islamists in history. What do you make of it?
Well, Lou, listen, we've got to enlist our Arab friends to stop financing, to stop educating children to be terrorists. We've got to bring them into this global effort to eliminate radical terrorism. I'm convinced that this is about an ideology, and it's not about specific individuals. And I've got to believe that a Muslim family somewhere in the world who's not radicalized is just as scared with Sharia law, and when they see individuals thrown off a roof building or flogged, that they don't see this as normal. And I believe that we've got to enlist our Arab friends to also go out and speak against this.
Senator, at the same time, you create a paradox for the president and this administration, which maintains there is no al-Qaeda that is not on the run, that the Islamic State itself is not Islamic, that won't use the phrase radical Islamists when referring to terrorism, that is universally radical Islamist terrorism that we're engaged in the so-called war on terror. How do you get around that?
Lou, I don't think there's a person in the world today that believes that al-Qaeda has been decimated. Whether that's core al-Qaeda, Khorasan, al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, al-Qaeda in the Maghreb. Listen, they're alive and well. They thrive. They direct. They train. And what we've seen in France is they have executed. And we've got to be just as concerned with execution throughout Europe as we are with execution here in the United States. Now, we don't have any threats that we're following that are specific, but we see more chatter, especially on the internet, social media, than I ever have in the 14 years I've been on the Intelligence Committee since 2000. And it doesn't have to be spectacular like 9/11 to do a tremendous amount of damage, not just to individuals, but to a very fragile global economy.
And your reaction to Leon Panetta, Mike Morrell, the former head of the CIA, both men leading that agency, and both men saying, in effect, that sooner or later, al-Qaeda, radical Islamist terror, will be attacking this country. Are you as fatalistic as they are?
Well, Lou, let me just say, Leon Panetta and Mike Morrell call balls and strikes, and they've definitely called a strike this time. We've got the best intelligence organization in the world. We've got the best law enforcement, the best counterintelligence. We do a tremendous job of surveilling those individuals that we think might carry out an act. What keeps me up at night? What we don't know. And I think that's what Leon Panetta and Mike Morrell are expressing. There are things that we don't know, and it's events like Paris, it's takedowns like Belgium that give us new intelligent nodes that we can go out and track down and figure out whether there's an individual here that we need to be aware of. But Lou, here's the key thing. You can't take away the tools. We've got to have the access to data, metadata. We've got to have the ability for FISA warrants to be exercised with sufficient court supervision. Take them away from us, and our intelligence and our law enforcement won't be any better than what we've seen anywhere else in the rest of the world. And I will tell you, the French have much greater authorities than does our FBI, so that gives you a hint.
And the Europeans, at the very time that for the first time they were making this immense shift, actually recognizing that radical Islamists are their enemy, incredible national displays of unity and protests against radical Islamist terrorism this administration seems to be receding from engagement with terrorists and radical Islamists in particular. Give us your outlook for the, I will call it the near future, and as to keep it as ambiguous as possible, but your outlook as we conclude tonight.
Well, let me just say, the rest of the world, Europe, Asia, everywhere, they're watching the United States. They're looking at the president. We're the ones that have to lead. And when you see 12 airstrikes a day in Syria on a good day, and the president says we're making an impact, the rest of the world knows we're not. It's time that we do the things that make the rest of the world convinced that we're going to eliminate this threat here at home, and we're going to help them do it abroad. I'm ready, willing, and able to work with this White House, and like I said, we've got the best and the brightest, the strongest committed. But ask one of those 100 Marines sitting in Sana'a, Yemen tonight, do they feel safe that Al-Qaeda's been decimated? They'd laugh at us.
Senator, thanks for being with us. Senator Richard Burr, Chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee.